Where's baby Mike? What's baby Mike doing in there? What's baby Mike doing in there? Does baby Mike have sunglasses on?
Early story about Mike, I think the obvious would be when he was born, and we didn't know the extent of the spina bifida at the time. We had a fantastic doctor and we had good guesses, but until, in my mind, until he was actually born, I just couldn't, I had to picture it.
First found out about Mike having spina bifida during the ultrasound in my pregnancy. She was doing the ultrasound, and then at one point she stopped, and I can't remember what she asked. She asked, did you have a certain test done? I don't remember what it was, but it was something like that. But it was sent triggers off. Okay, something's off. She is concerned about something.
Then the tech asked whether or not we had done the alpha beta protein test, and your mom started to cry immediately. She just knew, but I didn't know.
I remember they were asking about if we wanted to terminate the pregnancy with the diagnosis.
I became upset because the first thing that group did was give us the option for how soon we wanted to have an abortion. And before we really knew anything, they were all like, it was like, let's just avoid this pregnancy and we'll just try again.
When Mike was born, we were very lucky from the standpoint that the opening on his back, it was really low down and it was very small. The doctor even said, you know, this is one of the smallest ones I've ever seen.
The doctor, I forget his name, immediately like wrapped him up in like saran wrap to cover up the hole in his spine. But the good news was that Mike's feet were moving and everything, and what Carol and I were not expecting. We were told we weren't going to hold him, but the doctor was so cool that he gave us a chance to hold Mike. The first couple of years, it was a mixture of different surgeries or doctor appointments, him, you know, whether he was going to walk. The best thing was just he developed this laugh that was just contagious.
Where's Mike? Peekaboo. Where's Mike? Where's Mike?
And it's that laugh that made me always think about the first option the doctors gave, because he was such a, and is such a happy person. And once he started taking steps and so forth, I would get up early during the weekends to give Carol a break since she stayed at home. And we would turn on music and dance, and the kids would stand on my feet. And I had like a yoga kids tape, and I did that. Just, I don't think Mike ever really knew I did it, but I was doing it not just to have fun, but to help strengthen those legs.
I will be the first to admit that I was probably very much overprotective of Mike, and I just, like I said, I've had this strong maternal need to protect him since I first felt him moving inside of me, and we found everything out. I was like, okay, it is my job. I need to protect this kid. We're going to do what we need to do. I'm going to take care of him. And so I have always been overly protective, which is probably not necessarily a good thing, but it's how I am, and that's how I'm very quick to want everything to be okay, to want to, make things okay. Fortunately, his dad was a good balance to that growing up.
I do remember getting those looks in the malls like, your kid just face planted, and you're just sitting there saying, "Get up, Mike, pick yourself up." And I just had to deal with it. But I believe that Mike is stronger for it today.
So, in your own words, can you kind of tell me what spina bifida is?
Spina bifida is a disability you are born with that has to do with the spinal cord and the vertebrates around the spinal cord, and they don't form 100%. So the spinal cord is kind of sticking out and not completely developed.
Mike and I think, have probably logged hours in waiting rooms, in doctor's offices. I remember when he had sores on his foot, and we had to go to wound care every week for months, and we spent hours in the waiting room there. We got to know everyone quite well. But they, it was like almost like family, and you were joking around with everybody, and it was just kind of fun and a joke. We'd be like, "Oh, I wonder how long are we going to be here today?" Or what, it was just almost comical.
The hardest part of growing up was probably dealing with all the surgeries, especially, when I had the 2 knee surgeries with multiple months of recovery and, other surgeries like that, and surgeries that I didn't know I was going to have that popped up, like my shunt surgery.
And we took him to the doctor, and they wanted to check his shunt, and they did, what was it? Was it a CT scan they did? I don't remember what they did, but they looked at it and said, you need to go to the hospital right now, like go across the street.
I was going to say, that's the most memorable medical event for me, is the shunt revision. 'Cause it was so rapid fire. We're at the doctor's office 1 minute, and we're on our way to the hospital the next for him to have surgery. Then.
Yeah, and I mean, it was, he had plenty of surgeries, but they'd always been scheduled and planned, and we knew, and this was, you go in, nope, go across the street, you're going to have surgery now.
I have had, to this day, I believe 11 surgeries, or 10, somewhere in the realm of 10 surgeries.
It's always there, and there's always the medical issues and the medical threats of surgery or this or that, and, making sure that, he has his braces okay, and, and everything's okay, but as far as day-to-day functioning, it's not that different from, other kids.
What helped me was settling back and looking and be like, I may not be able to do super physical things, but there are other things that I can do, and I just have to do them a little bit differently because of my spina bifida.
The biggest difference for me in parenting was anticipation of environment and how much walking was going to be involved, being able to plan ahead for contingencies.
Learning, my limitations with spina bifida was really difficult at first, and I hated it.
I remember I think it was a music festival that we had gone
Hullabaloo.
to, and there was quite a bit of walking, but we didn't bring the wheelchair with us. So I remember piggybacking him out to the car at the end of the night, just so he wouldn't have to walk.
The stupid school changed the rules for soccer, and he was a great soccer goalie. And then some stupid group decided, well, we can't have goalies, and that took Mike out of the ability to be able to play soccer, particularly with how competitive the sports were at that school, even at a very young age. And that was the first time where you could see the limitation.
One of the coolest things that has been a product of my spina bifida has been the adaptive rowing. I was in adaptive rowing for 4 or 5 years, and I never would have come across that if I hadn't had spina bifida, and especially being as into sports as I am, it was nice to have something that I could do and that I was really good at.
To travel.
Oh, yeah, Philadelphia.
With the team,
Yeah.
and that was one that leveraged his upper body strength, and so he could participate just as easily as any able-bodied person. So I think that's an area where he could participate in sports and succeed. Just like anybody else.
When I was younger, it was very frustrating because, when you're a young kid, you don't really know yourself yet, and other kids don't know themselves, and, the lack of maturity. It was very frustrating at times, and I felt like an outcast multiple times.
We got test results. He was having a lot of difficulty in school, but it took us a while to get him tested, and we finally got him in, but it was like the week before school was to start. And they said he had, that people with spina bifida tend to have ADD-like qualities. And they did, we went to the school, and they just literally said, we can't accommodate. And that was the priest and the principal together. And I was just, in some ways I wasn't surprised, but in other ways I was dumbfounded.
That's why I'm such an independent person now. It's because of my social experiences as a child. But I wouldn't take any of it back because it has honestly helped me grow so much about dealing with my disability and educating people on my disability.
He's had some tough times, and there have been some struggles, and it's it's hard enough being a teenager, and it's really hard being a teenager that has added medical issues thrown his way. But he's handled it all really well, and he's never had any big meltdowns. He's done well, and it's fun to see him now being college age and more independent and truly taking on responsibility and doing well in school and managing his life. And it feels very fulfilling to know that he's going to be able to have a happy and successful life, independent life.
The best thing that my family has done for me throughout the years is it's just the support, because that's, when you have so many surgeries that you're going through and so many, difficult things that aren't surgeries, like my back issues and stuff like that, it's hard to do that alone, and it's hard to go through that. And so just having support and a supportive family who are willing to do things and help out, that helps me a lot.
My biggest health concern for Mike now is just taking the time to look out for himself. His braces may get pretty banged up. He has a tendency to get calluses or sores on his feet sometimes that he can't always feel. I hope he takes the time to take care of himself and, just make sure that everything's okay.
I respect Mike a great deal. And he's a very strong person. So in many respects, the spina bifida probably, to give you a very long-winded answer, probably has made him a stronger human being, individual, than he would have been if he didn't have the spina bifida.
I'm confident about my future with spina bifida. Like, even if something happens, I've always, if something drastic happens, I'll always find a solution. I'm not worried about it. Sometimes it might take a little longer. It might be a little bit harder. It might be a bit more, it might wear me out a bit more, but, I'll hang in there and find a solution.